Welcome to 3D Experience Integration across enterprise systems. This is the second part in a four-part series about 3D experience integration with other systems within your enterprise across your product lifecycle. My name is Brian Schouten. I'm Director of Technical Presales at PROSTEP Inc. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our product OpenPDM as well as some planning that you can do for your integration. Our 3D Experience Integration series has four parts. In the first part, we discussed our overall vision for a digital enterprise using integration and integration strategies that you could use. In this part, we'll talk about a little bit of integration planning and then do an overview of OpenPDM fundamentals. In the third part, we'll look at OpenPDM and do a deep dive into architecture, technology, and use cases and show some demos around those use cases. And then in the final, fourth part, we'll do some success stories and talk through some next steps. Some background on OpenPDM. The product's over 25 years old. And over 25 years ago, it was started as a product to synchronize data at German automotive OEMs between PDM and PDM. And so this could be product structure and configuration data and design data. Let's say you had one PDM that had a vehicle and another with an engine, then you could synchronize that. And that could be also with partners too. Around 2005, we expanded from PDM to more generic PLMs and then also into ERP to have that engineering to procurement and resource planning synchronization. That's a pretty common integration across many different engineering manufacturing organizations. Around 2010, introduced other concepts. So a collaboration and a partner data exchange with joint ventures across corporate borders, PLM system migration concepts, as well as simplifying the data model. So the original OpenPDM was based on PLM services, which is a standard computational informational model with SOAP services and XML representation of step 214. We moved to a simplified business object and relationship model around that time too. In 2015, we added linking support and introduced connectors for ALM systems as well as support for OSLC protocols. And then now, modern 2020 through 2025, introduced many other connectors for IoT, for MBSC, and other services, as well as support for cloud enablement and cloud hosting and some SaaS offerings as well. OpenPDM comes in different engagement levels. The first on the left is traditional OpenPDM. It's called OpenPDM Integrate, and that's using a number of a la carte off-the-shelf connectors as well as process services in the middle. In order to kind of give customers flexibility to adopt whatever their needs are. So you could have 3, 4, 5 different connectors between different systems and processes that connect data across all those, like in our digital thread examples. And really there's no limit to how you're using it. And typically it's sold as a perpetual license. And we set it up in the beginning and then you can maintain it and it'll automate data through the life cycle. OpenPDM Migrate in the middle is actually typically a rental because we want to, in a short period of time, move data from an old PLM to a new PLM that might be of different vendor versions, right? This has tools built in so that it can do data analysis, the staging databases, can do transformation, and also uses high performance APIs for the different systems that are involved to make sure that you can export, transform, and load data very efficiently. And then OpenPDM Collaborate on the right is intended to be a partner solution. So this could be either a neutral PLM that both organizations might feed data in and out of, or a collaboration across corporate borders between different PLMs. This can include IP filtering and delta synchronization to make sure that On an import, you're only updating what you need to, or on export as well. And make sure that the data that's being transferred over is correct and just what your organization wants to share. So we'd like to start out with a demo of OpenPDM to kind of showcase how it works. This is an example of a Windchill integration with 3D Experience, moving CATIA and STEP data from 3DX into Windchill. It could be that you've adopted 3DX for design and you have Windchill as your PLM and you want to build a bridge there so that you can synchronize data for configuration management or other use cases. So you can introduce OpenPDM with the 3DX connectors, the process server in the middle, and then the Windchill connectors. And in this example, we're going to export from 3DX the product structure, step 242 data, and a downsave CATIA v5 from the new modern CATIA. And then we're going to import that product structure, that's parts and designs, import the CATIA v5 through the workgroup manager, and then also import the step 242. We're going to do that by showing the data in 3DX, then showing the process in the OpenPDM process server, and then finally showing the data loaded into Windchill. So we'll start our demo in Windchill and just show that there's nothing within this demo folder that we're going to populate later with that CATIA data that's synchronized from 3DX. And then moving over to 3D Experience, we've got a wing assembly that's got maybe 30 parts and in CATIA associated with that. We also have our Send to Windchill widget below there, and this is just for demonstration purposes. What we can do is drag the assembly that we want to move into that widget, and then click the button. It'll trigger OpenPDM in order to start that synchronization process. So you see, we've done that. We trigger it. It shows an ID. This is the process ID within the OpenPDM process cockpit here. And then we refresh that and we see the process running. So there's many steps in the process. It takes a little bit of time in order to export the data. We're going to export from XPDM, CATIA v6, downsave that to CATIA v5, export step, and then import the part structure, import the CATIA v5 through Workgroup Manager into Windchill, and then also import the step data. So we can take a look at the process. It's got a lot of logs. Every time you run a process, it will run through each of these BPM and steps and then generate logs of before and after, and mappings and other things that are important in integration. Now we go back to Windchill. You see that it's run and that the folder has been populated with parts and designs as well as documents. So we can go ahead and take a look at the part structure here, and then also explode that part structure so that you can see the different designs and documents that are associated there. And this gives you kind of a flavor of what to expect overall with OpenPDM and Windchill integration. We can then also open that up in CATIA, so we can expand it all. You can see that there's the step data that's associated there, and then also CATIA data. So we go to our workgroup manager, and then we can load that same file in CATIA, and then you can see it populate, the wing assembly here. This is downsave from CATIA v5, but we've also brought in step 242 data, just so that we kind of have a comprehensive data set to show different options in how you can synchronize data between these different environments. It also populates various attributes, so you can populate part attributes and other design attributes. You can see that if we look at the properties here, it's carried over the attributes from 3D Experience, but then also including attributes that have been defined by the Workgroup Manager when you're checking in and checking out this data into the system and importing it. You can see those properties down here. And there's a lot of different mappings that are available as well. So depending on your usage and the custom soft attributes, soft types that you have in Windchill, we can populate those depending on what your needs are. So let's jump into some integration planning and what's required for being successful with this type of integration. Typically, we want to understand what the preconditions are before an integration, what the process trigger is, or the UI component like that widget is, and any post conditions that are after the integration, like what the resulting data sets look like. So if you think of it in terms of what triggers it, what is the precondition and source of the data, what the post condition is, and you can be able to articulate that, then it makes everybody's job very easy. And then talk about the implementation. So detailing the mapping of the attributes, as well as any of the relationships and objects that go in there. Any transformation requirements of binary content that could be like, changing CAD data into a derived format, like creating Creo view or JT or CGR or something like that. And then an import strategy. This means when to update or revise or insert or remove within a bill of materials, different data, or other types of logical conditions that are needed in the import in order to make your integration successful. And when you're doing the implementation, you also want to think about user acceptance. So document those test cases, any mapping and transformation requirements that you might have during that. And then also think about how you can fully validate the module that you're using for integrated data. So if you're moving data from one system to another, think about how you're going to use that data within the target system, and make sure that those different usages still work with the data that's been integrated and all the full module functionality. So what are the first steps if you contact us? Typically, we'll do an initial assessment, and this includes doing a detailed questionnaire, looking at the systems, what system versions you're running, if they're on-prem or off-site in the cloud, what the types of data are, what the scope of that data looks like, and then some of the integration, right? So what triggers those integrations, what the preconditions of the data are, what the post conditions are. We'll do some investigative meetings to refine what that scope is, and then talk about dependencies and work with different stakeholders in order to make sure that everything is agreed to. From there, we'll generate an integration proposal where we'll document the solution, do a high-level technical scope, including process sequence diagrams and overall architecture diagrams, kind of document assumptions, risks, conditions, dependencies to the infrastructure and needs there so that we have everything aligned to get going right away. And then project planning, timing, and costs overall of the project. And then once that's agreed to, we'll typically do a kickoff and start with workshops and deep dive sessions in order to refine those use cases, to make sure that we understand completely the systems and the customizations of those systems and the usage and how your organization uses it, to make sure that we've got that nailed down. We'll detail the mappings of your specific attributes and different soft types and things like that that you're using in order to make sure that it meets the use case requirements. We'll take a look at the infrastructure and install the software and get moving on configuring your processes. So finally, I'd like to remind you that PROSTEP is here to help. We've been doing this for a long time, and if you're looking for any feedback or want to discuss your integration project, then come contact us and we'd be happy to help. Thank you.